Hi, everyone. My name is Price Yevisi. I'm one of the co-founders of Utopia Labs. What we do is we're really focused on helping DAOs scale from back office perspective, so helping them do financial work, payments to their contributors, but also helping with coordination as well. And so the talk I wanted to give today is on scaling DAO operations and decentralized tooling for digital orgs. In this talk, first we're going to talk about what specifically are DAO ops, how DAO operations are structured, the specific parts of that, whether that be governance, coordination, or execution, the evolving infrastructure and operations of these organizations, and the needs of these organizations at scale. So first and foremost, I guess we need to start this conversation by establishing a common definition of what a DAO is. And so there are so many different definitions out there of what a DAO is. It means different things to different people across the spectrum of how you engage with these organizations as a contributor and operator. And oftentimes these definitions are more limiting than not, especially how nascent most of these organizations are and where we are in sort of the definition and just how these organizations are evolving so fast. But just a general starting place for this conversation, a definition I'd love to establish is an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. This is a definition by Kay Cruther from the Gnosis Guild. Next, let's talk a bit more about what DAO ops are. DAO operations are the practice of coordinating a distributed group of people to operate an organization governed by a group of token holders. So when you think of a DAO, right, you have the community members who may be token holders, contributors, or just followers of the organization. But there's also the people who make sure that the organization is running and do the work to manage the day-to-day of how the organization just runs and continues to produce the work, manage the community, or provide the services that the organization was put together to push forward. And so there are different parts to actually the operations of an organization, different layers, if you will. And so from our perspective at Utopia, there's three main layers of the idea of DAO operations. So first and foremost, there's governance. And so this is how these communities make the overarching decisions that impact how the organization will grow and operate. So as you know, DAOs form around, as many of you probably know, DAOs form around governance and voting. So community members, whether that be through NFT holdings or tokens, get together to make votes on certain things around leadership, budgets, focus, and approving the use of treasury funds. And so this is really core to how these organizations make decisions on how they're going to run and operate. Next, there's coordination. So in the actual inner workings of these organizations, this is how you actually organize the human capital of the group to achieve the common economic, social, and cultural objectives of the organization. So how do you organize a distributed, decentralized group of people at scale? That's the coordination layer. And then execution is how do these organizations actually get the assets from the treasury to compensate people while it's still being a decentralized, distributed organization? So basically, like, how do you organize funds without one person specifically being in charge of the bank account, right? So talking a little bit more about the tools that exist across these layers to help these organizations manage and manage each of the responsibilities across these layers. First and foremost, on the governance layer, there's tools like Tally and Snapshot. And so both of these are tools that allow for these organizations to take votes, whether that be through the NFTs or tokens, and they have pretty great interfaces. Snapshot is, I'd say, the prevailing tool which most organizations and DAOs use for their voting. There's the coordination layer, so things like Coordinate. And so have any of you heard of what Coordinate is? Yeah, Yeah. So it's a great tool that creates a decentralized graph of contributions across an organization, and allows for these organizations to be able to assign value to the work done by contributors in a way that's not centralized or dependent on one or two people assigning value to the tasks of members across an organization. And next, there's tools like Wonderverse. There's also dwork. And I have the logo for Wonderverse up, but dwork is an amazing tool as well. And these are bounty boards. And so what the bounty boards are another structure for decentralized coordination, wherein an organization can put up all the tasks they need done, the specific order in which they need them done, and they can organize people to take on and achieve these tasks and compensate them fairly as these tasks get done. And these bounty boards are connected in a way that they can automatically execute from the safe, the funds that are ascribed to each of these tasks. Then lastly, the execution layer. So there's things like Gnosis Safe. That's the prevailing structure of how most DAOs and organizations manage their treasuries. So they'll have a special Gnosis Safe wallet. They'll have a certain amount of signers. There's a threshold of signatures you need before each transaction can be executed. But there's also tools like Utopia. And what we do is we're a layer on top of Gnosis Safe wallets, and we provide a better interface and structure for being able to manage an organization at scale, specifically having to do with workflows for decentralized team. So talking a bit more about what kind of tooling might these organizations need if we are truly going to get to a place where there's millions of or hundreds or thousands or millions of people in these organizations, right? Because that's the ideal state. We at Utopia believe that DAOs are the future because they're going to inspire corporations, institutions, and communities that are more equitable, more transparent, and more accessible than previous institutions that run on non-crypto rails. And so we've been putting a lot of thought into what would a million-person DAO look like. And so a general thesis we have is that the governance layer, the coordination layer, and the execution layer need to converge in some way, right? And so our idea between that is interoperability across these layers helps these orgs scale. And so when the tools at each individual layer of operations can work in conjunction with each other, these organizations can scale because there's less need for centralized points in these organizations, wherein operators who have huge swaths of responsibility, because smaller, more granular groups of people can work in ways that can self-govern and work more autonomously. So moving on, how does this look in practice? So some tools that are out there that already model this in some ways are the Zodiac module by Gnosis Guild. And so basically what this allows for is a DAO can make a vote, and this is connected right to their treasury. So they can make a vote connected to a certain distribution straight from a safe. And it can, as soon as this vote passes or fails, if it passes and let's say the proposal that was put up was for someone to get paid 100 ETH, right? That as soon as the proposal passes, that 100 ETH will be paid out to that address that was specified in the proposal. There's also optimistic governance, which is a system wherein rather than saying this proposal to pass needs this set amount of votes, you can also say, hey, what if anyone can submit a proposal, and rather than having to submit it to vote on it to pass, you have to basically just have to, if you want to, it'll pass unless stopped. And so that's another model that, especially when put against maybe budgets, and certain people have access to these budgets to be able to request funds for their projects, or to get paid, or to get reimbursed for something. They have access unless explicitly stopped. So another framework for thinking about how DAOs can scale is thinking about maybe how can these organizations maybe function as smaller organizations within a larger whole. And so that's kind of the idea of a sub-DAO. A definition for a sub-DAO that I really like is a sub-DAO is a DAO created by or spun out of a parent DAO. Sub-DAOs offer a medium for working groups to create their own foundation or organizational structure, all while tying back to the originating entity. So this is almost like the idea of, so sub-DAOs in a sense function a lot like meta-governance. And so if, basically it's the structure in which there's a larger organization, right? And then it has smaller pieces of it down along the tree of like different children that sort of are all spun out of this larger organization. And so a way in which you can tie value back to the larger organization to allow these organizations to coordinate at scale is tying the governance rights back up to the larger organization. So say maybe you have a sub-DAO that's focused on business, or a sub-DAO that's focused on marketing, or a sub-DAO that's focused on engineering. You still need a way to tie back all of their interests back to the larger overarching goals of the main organization. And so you can do that by, in a way, just tying back some of the governance rights to the larger organization so that the larger organization as a whole can have some sway in the execution and coordination of these smaller organizations together. And so that idea of nested there's a concept of nested proposals wherein a larger organization can put proposals to the sub-DAOs, the children of the larger overarching organization, to get them in a sense to work within the rights, work within the missions of the larger overarching organizations, while still giving them the autonomy to run as a smaller, less organization with less overhead, but while also giving them the governance rights to run as their own organization. So a little bit more about another side of scaling a DAO, which is just this idea of how, as these organizations scale, there's different needs of its members, right? As well as it grows, there's different needs like from an organizational side. Like a DAO that has 10 people, as it's going all the way to 100 or 1,000, that's a different type of organization. Like your contributors, if they want to maybe spend their full time working as a DAO, there's different things they need like healthcare, benefits, payroll, vesting. And then the org also needs bookkeeping, financial reporting, budgeting, all to help it run in the interest of being a more streamlined, more organized organization that's also transparent to its contributors, shareholders, and community. And so these are all things that as we're looking towards how DAO tooling needs to develop, the tooling in these areas needs to continue to develop. So especially because while we're pushing towards a better future through putting our faith and trust in these organizations structures, we also need to think about how can DAOs service the needs of like everyday people. People need to eat. People need to pay rent. So there's a lot of things that, and also healthcare. There's a lot of things that need to be thought of as we further push forward to this future that we're all hoping for. And so talking a little bit more about how we're thinking about some of the org structure needs at scale. There's some features we're developing at Utopia, like multi-wallet bookkeeping, that helps these organizations better manage their finances and have transparent reporting for the community and their stakeholders, as well as transparent financial reporting, which is in the same thread of thinking that helps these organizations better manage their finances and being able to share that with their community. Another thing I don't really have a slide for is we have been working on tooling that sort of plays really well with allowing for organizations to, especially decentralized organizations like DAOs, to be able to offer their communities healthcare. And so I think one of the things that's the most important to us at Utopia is while we're trying to push forward this idea that we can create these more equitable, more transparent, and more accessible organizations, at every step of the way, the needs of like people operating in the real world that's not, just the metaverses we enjoy in Discord, their needs are taken care of. So yeah, that's all for me. Also happy to answer any questions.
What's the business model of Utopia?
So we're probably going to be introducing some sort of tiers on the side of features, but I think two things that are sort of important to us are thinking more about how we can really live where these communities live and find ways to sort of monetize that are expansive rather than extractive, and really living where our communities live and trying to provide value to them in a way, monetize in a way that provides value to us as well as our customers.
So for the time being, there's not a fee to engage. It's just
Yeah, it's free.
growth phase.
Yeah.
What chain do you guys live on?
Right now we're on ETH mainnet, but we are thinking pretty heavily about expanding to multiple chains. Any other questions?
I'm just curious, in your user base, I know a lot of DAOs use Gnosis Safe. Have you seen any competitors or alternatives becoming popular?
Not really. It's I think in a lot of ways it's just a really great public good, and it's been a foundational primitive for a lot of these organizations in the way they've been able to grow and scale. And I think it also just sort of lives in a lot of the this idea of composability and ownership for DAOs, because it's a primitive that allows for the assets to be truly owned by the community rather than like living or existing in some sort of platform or framework. All right, I think that's it from me. Thanks for listening. Also, it's lovely to be in Portland with you guys. This city's great. All right.